Okay, so this is a start of a face that is of, you can see, of a darker complexion, but I wanted to show you something. You can see the shape of the face. You know, you can see the ear is coming out here. It's kind of in a shadow. We're working on the eyes. The eyes aren't proportionally right, but you can change them. We're going to bring this eye down a little bit like this, and there's going to be a shadow, and you can see the shape of the neck. The reason why I'm showing you this is just a fast sketch, but I want you to be able to see all of the colors in the skin. Do you see how there's yellows, and we have some greens coming in, and some browns, and some reds? We have pale color also in the face. There's a lot of color in the complexion that somebody could be darker or lighter. So you can use those same colors as far as a base. Somebody might be pale, but they might have a lot of brown in their skin. Also, depending on the lighting of where they are, that is going to change how they're going to look. Okay, so when we left, we kind of did this outline, but there are some things that I want to talk to you about the outlines, and I'm going to show it to you on a sketch, which will be a little bit easier for you to understand. So when we're drawing a face, we have to think of, you know, this is the front of the view, and we were talking about the features of the face as far as the shape of the forehead and where the eyes would be, and that this is the smallest area. And I was telling you about the measurement with the 5-eye rule, and you can see the nose is in the middle. And also, this is just doing the same thing as far as showing you a profile. The other thing that's important are the colors to be mixed as far as the palette. So you can see that you have brown and white, you have pink brown, which is pink and brown together, and you have a variety of browns from purple and yellow to red and greens to blue and greens to green and orange. And it's important that you have those different color browns, because you can add blues into them. Colors that I like for painting portraits, it depends again on the complexion, but raw umber works good, you know. French ultramarine, of course your tea white, your titanium white. And the thing is, when I usually work, if I'm working fast, I would also block in the darker tones. In this situation, I'm showing you this way, I'll show you another way, and that means that you would just block in the areas that are usually the face that are kind of furthest from the light source. And you just kind of want to choose your brush. It might be a mixture of like your umber brown, maybe someone lives in crimson or burnt sienna, to make those dark tones. And then to lighten them, you could add a cadmium red or yellow with a little bit of white if you wanted to warm them up. Then you're going to block in the middle tones. And again, you could use those same colors and just kind of lighten them, or you could use an uninspected color, like you could add like a, you know, like a sap green to get that desired hue. But you want to block in, or blue, but then you want to block in the lightest tones. Now, because we're working here from acrylics, I'm going to start from light to dark, but then I can do another video where I'll show you how you can do it from dark to light. And I'm gonna start telling you about how we're gonna do that now. The other thing is, it's really helpful for the students that if you haven't painted before, to have your color wheel near you. And the reason why is because you can look at the color wheel and you can say, okay, I want to put a contrasting color that is going to be in their face or make their face brighter, instead of just using you'll start experimenting with more colors that way. So what I want to do is I want to show you one more example of something that you would need to do before you start mixing the colors of the face. But I want to show you this because it makes it a little bit easier, even though it's kind of a watercolor drawing. You can kind of see what I mean about all of the colors in the face. Do you see all of the colors, these pinks, and then you see these tans and these areas that are white? And I'm showing you, you know, they're in different profiles. But you really want to kind of think about that ahead of time. And I'll show you another one here. Here's another one. And you can kind of see those light and dark areas very well. The other thing is you want to do the initial outline, which we talked about as the grid. You're defining, again, the lights and the shades, you know, building up those areas. And then you want to kind of start softening the flesh tones and building up the flesh tones. Then we're going to apply glazes, and then we can start the details and the highlights on the face. So let's start now with this. But again, I want to show you again what we started with. It's just something that's quite simple, and we're going to start building up these colors now. So because this has been dried, I was gone for a little bit of a while, for like 2 minutes. I'm going to have to re-wet the face so I can work on it wet on wet. Otherwise this has dried. And I can do that within 5 minutes, 5 seconds, just by recovering that face on top and just making it wet again. And that's what I've done. Now the next thing that I want to do is, remember when I talked to you about putting the light tones on for the lighter areas? So I'm putting this really white so you can see it. But we talked about the light areas, you know, being the forehead, right? And the other light area being where the tip of the nose is. And you can just kind of leave it like that, right in the chin here. And then we have these light areas, which are the cheeks. Do you kind of see that? Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to blend. I want to show you something. When I go back and forth with my brush, I'm kind of just blending those areas in where they're really soft. So I don't see them. They're not like huge, big white areas anymore, right? They're kind of blending into the canvas, but they're still there, okay? And what we are going to do is next, we are going to start thinking about the dark areas. And for my dark areas, I have a little bit of this brown here, and I'm going to start putting those dark areas in. So I have the nose. I kind of centered myself. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to change my brush size, only because I'm starting to put in these areas and I want to have a little bit more control. That the first brush is a very large brush, and sometimes you can draw the features ahead of time. Now I want to make a couple of mistakes on this face, because it's good if you see where the mistakes are so you don't make them where students make them. So I'm giving this face a lot more color than it would usually have. And I'm doing this just to kind of outline this and show you something. And, okay, so do you see that shape of the face that I had there? Okay, so I'm making my nose a little bit long. I like these Modigliani kind of noses for me. And what I'm doing is I'm going to start very fast, and I'm going to start blending. I'm just pulling up the canvas, these dark areas, and I'm just kind of blending them in, and I'm just remembering where these dark areas are on the face. So that's kind of like my second step, and I'm going to show you something. And then what I can do is I can go back over these areas, and I can start building them up by putting the lights and then the darks. And we really want to do that because we want the shape to kind of start taking form. And you want to start seeing more of the contrast. Otherwise you won't see much of the contrast. So that's kind of like the second stage. And then we're going to build it up a little bit more. I went back to my larger brush, and I'm kind of putting in those light areas. And don't forget to, when your brush becomes too dirty, you know, you're going to have to go back and dab it out, because when you're working wet on wet, sometimes you do pick up another color that you have that you might not want on the brush at that time. And you kind of want to keep doing this and blending it so it becomes very smooth. And you're just going to start building up the lights from the darks. And you can still see what we laid down here before, right? Still see it, but it's coming a little bit stronger, okay? So I'm going to go and we're going to move on to the next step. I'll see you in another video.